Welcome to Fight Club 24/7. My name's Johnny Rashman. Right, let's get straight into it. Katie Taylor defeats Amanda Serrano via split decision. First of all, I've got to say, what an unbelievable fight. The atmosphere, I've never seen anything like it. Absolutely electric. Obviously, I'm watching it on TV, but there was just something different about that. The energy, the fans, the noise, the anticipation, I don't think I've seen an atmosphere like that. There was just something completely different. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Fair play to Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, DAZN. It was, like I said, the build-up wasn't great. I wanted more of the fighters as opposed to Hearn and Jake Paul. But Fight Night delivered. Unbelievable. Great atmosphere. Fantastic. Right. Let's look into the fight. Right, because it was incredible, absolutely incredible. It played in parts. It played out a little bit how I predicted in my pre-fight build-up. Have a look at it. I mentioned about Taylor's footwork. Is it on the decline? And I think her amateur style will win the fight, and the hand speed will be a problem, and how Serrano are going to deal with that. But the main thing that I said that was a big problem in this fight was the weight. Right, a lot of people didn't pick up on it. The weight had a major impact on the fight later, especially later on in the fight. You could see Serrano was having trouble with the bigger fighter, right? And I think that was a massive, massive problem. Now, I've got to be completely honest with you, right? When Katie came out, she looked a little bit tense for the first few rounds. She couldn't get a jab off. She was really out of range with a jab. She was throwing it, but it wasn't even landing. She was just sort of throwing it, and she was struggling to get into distance to land the combinations. Now, I think that had to do with Serrano being a southpaw. I think that played a part with that. But the first few rounds, you could have given them either fighter, right? You can give them Katie because I think she was a little bit more busier maybe the first 3 rounds. Not 100% sure of the punch stats about that. I'll have to check it. But there's a case for the first 3 rounds, you could have given it either fighter or even, right? There was a case for that. But Katie's hand speed was a problem for Serrano. It was. She kept landing left hooks, especially check left hooks, right? They were landing. However, Serrano, she proved me completely wrong. What a fighter. What a fighter. And I've got to be honest with you, I'm looking at that fight and I thought Katie was going to get taken out. I'm not going to lie. When it got to rounds 4, 5, 6, I'm thinking, her legs have gone here. There was a period of about 2, 3 rounds where her legs were completely gone. And I'm talking gone, like Katie couldn't spring off on them. She couldn't throw any punches. She was literally just there, a sitting duck. And she was taking some punishment. And you know what? She bit down on the gum shield and let her hands go. What heart from Katie Taylor. I mean, we can all talk about her talent, but how many times has she shown her grit and heart? And when it gets to the trenches and it's a dogfight, she fucking shows up, the girl. Unbelievable. But I'm telling you, I think Serrano's missed a big opportunity. I mean, if I'm looking at that fight from round 4, I'm thinking this fight, Katie's going to get taken out. And for whatever reason, Serrano just didn't do enough. As well as she performed, I think she'll be a little bit disappointed because Katie was there for the taking. There's no doubt about that. Katie was here, and for a good few rounds, I don't think she knew where she was. She was literally just a sitting duck. She couldn't even move. She couldn't spin off the ropes. She was staying on the ropes. She couldn't spin off them. Her legs, she just had nothing in her legs for a period of time. And Serrano, I don't understand it. She just didn't capitalise on it. I think the big problem, one of the big problems was the hand speed from Katie Taylor, because Katie's the bigger fighter and they must have been having an effect. Even though every punch that Serrano landed looked like it hurt and visibly stunned Taylor, Serrano was getting hurt from Katie's shots. I'm telling you, it might not look like it on the TV, but she was wary about coming in because she was getting caught with a left hook, especially when Katie was throwing a 4-punch combination. She'd finish it with a left hook, right? And it would catch it regularly. The commentators were just horrific to listen to. You need to have commentators who understand the sport because they just don't pick up on anything. Like the amount of left hooks Katie was landing, right? Landing flush, never picked up on it. So sometimes when you have really incompetent commentators, it can ruin the fight because they're sort of leading you down a certain narrative. Serrano was getting hurt and pinged by shots, was getting countered, and she was getting hurt by left hooks, right? So I think that's what made her wary. She thought, right, I can't just dive in here. If I dive in and let my hands go, I'm going to get caught. So I think she was probably a bit more surprised. I think she was surprised by Katie's power. Now, I'm not saying Katie hurt her all the time, but she definitely stunned her, right? She was getting hit clean flush with hooks. So that played a part, but I said in the build-up as well, at some point it's just going to be heads down, swinging for the fences. I said it could be like Barrera and Morales, and you know what? It was similar to an extent. It was such an engrossing fight. It really was. And you know what Katie's really clever at? She's done this in a few other fights, especially when they've been close. She'll nick the last 2 rounds. Right? She did it against Natasha Jonas. That fight was dead even for me. Maybe you could say Jonas was winning it. And the last 2 rounds, she comes out and she's busy and she leaves that impression, right? And she did exactly the same the last 2 rounds. I don't know how she got a second win. Her legs were back. She boxed the last few rounds how she should have boxed the first half of the fight. Foot movement was there. She was landing repeatedly on Serrano. Her distance was getting better and better. The range was getting better and better. And she was landing really good combinations, but there was a problem with Katie's feet, I'm not going to lie. As I said, there was a time where she was literally she just couldn't move after then. I think she was hurt from Serrano. It must have played a part. It must have, because she was on the ropes and she just couldn't spin off and she couldn't use that ring. She did in spurts. There was times when she used it, she looked like the better fighter, right? She used the ring, using her footwork, letting the combinations go and getting back. But there was lots of times where she was throwing the combinations, just sitting in the pocket, and she was just holding her feet. She couldn't get back out, and that's when she was receiving punishment. It was just such a good fight. I'm not going to lie, it really was. For me, there's a case to say either one won by split decision or a draw. I have no problems with that. It's not a robbery or anything like that, so that's nonsense. It was a very, very close fight. I don't agree with the 2 of the wide scorecards. That was just ridiculous. It was so close. It was razor close. But I think the last 2 rounds won it for Katie. I thought she won the last 2 rounds, and you could say she won the first 3 rounds. So that's already 5 rounds, and she wins another few in the middle. So you can't scream robbery, but I do think Serrano is unlucky, I'm not going to lie, because I'm thinking, I don't know if she's got it here, Katie. But the last 2 rounds did swing it in my mind. But I think Serrano will be disappointed. Now, you can't be too critical. She put a great fight on. She seems like a really good girl. I know she's got an idiot of a promoter and makes everything about him, but just take him out of it for a minute. She looks like a really good girl, but I don't know. I think Katie was there for the taking for me. I think she was there for the taking, and I'm not sure why Serrano just didn't put everything into it. I don't know. Is it because she was worried about what was coming back? Was she getting hit? But you're looking at it and you're thinking, this is not going to end too well here. Serrano looked strong. She really did. She looked fat. She looked fast as well with her hands. And it looked like every time she was hitting Katie, it visibly stunned her. I mean, Katie, at one point, had no defence. She was just literally just there and just throwing. And I think Serrano should have been a little bit smarter. It's easy for me to pick the bones out of this, but they served up an absolute classic. It was sensational. It really was. The fight though was just incredible. It really was. I mean, you had those little nerves in your stomach. The Irish fans again, just such good fans. They really are. Unbelievable. They really, really went to war with Katie tonight. And Serrano's fans as well. It was just such a good mix. It really was. But I do think, as I say, I think Serrano will have a little bit of regrets. I really do. I think Katie was there for the taking. If you take away how good the fight was and everything else, she really was there for the taking. She showed heart of a lion, Katie. But she was hurt. She was times in that fight where she was hurt. And you're thinking, why aren't you putting on the pressure on Serrano? I don't know. It's like she had the middle rounds. It's like, I don't know, it's like she took one off. Or I just don't understand it. And I don't understand it. I think Serrano will be kicking herself, because you've got to, if you want to win the belts, you've got to win those rounds convincingly. You can't leave any doubt in the judge's mind. And really, the last 15, 20 seconds, we're like seeing Serrano put the pressure on, keep that impression in the judge's mind. And for me, she didn't. She didn't. She just, I don't know what it was. It's like she was just waiting for a moment. When she was stalking Katie and she was letting the hands go, you're thinking she looked unbelievable here. How's Katie going to win? But then Katie was coming back and, to the last 2 rounds, she was hurting Serrano. I did mention Serrano's lack of head movement pre-fight. She's not got great head movement. She was getting nailed repeatedly with combinations. She just didn't see. When Katie let her shots go, she just didn't see the last punch of the combination, which is usually a left hook from Katie. She just never saw it, and she was getting drilled and drilled and drilled with that shot. The commentators weren't picking up on it, but she was. But it's a close fight. It delivered. It was unbelievable. Do I want to see a rematch? Yes. But I don't want to see Katie continue. I don't want to see it continue for another few years, certainly. You can see her legs are going. Right? I think she's got another good few fights in her. We've got to see Katie Taylor fight in Ireland. It's as simple as that. We've got to see it. Has to happen. She cannot retire without fighting in Ireland, so that has to happen. I want to talk about Liam Smith. Great performance, relentless. The commentary was just a joke. Why was Jake Paul on the commentary? I don't understand. It was absolutely horrific. It was so disrespectful to the fighters because what the lead commentator kept saying, so you're a fighter, Jake, what happens when you get a cut here? Or what happens if you get tired in a fight? And he's like giving his opinion on 2 ex-world champions. This is a guy who's never fought a boxer. What are you doing? It was just, some of the lines, what did he say? He said, Liam Smith is going to the liver because he's from Liverpool. I was like, mate, it's unbearable listening to him. Just fuck off. Get off the TV screen. Just go away. Let it be about the fighters. Great. You've helped contribute, put this fight on. You are not the sole purpose this fight happened. Stop trying to take credit for it. Right? You've just brought a few mainstream eyes to it. That's it. Right? Eddie Hitton needs as many subs as he can get. He's milked you. Right? But don't get it twisted. Don't you think that you put this fight on. Right? Do you know who put this fight on? Both the fighters. And more importantly, Katie Taylor and her fan base. That's who put this fight on. Not Serrano and the fan base. Katie Taylor and her fan base. And all the medals and achievements and world titles she's won. Not some YouTuber who's come over with a ready-made following and has a business manager who makes all the smart moves and he takes the fucking claim for it. And all he does is put a few fucking posts out on social media. Right? And then say, I'm the greatest promoter and all this and all this. Great, you're tapping into your ready-made market you've got. Well done, right? But this delusions are granted that this fight is on because of you is absolutely nonsense. It's disrespectful. Get off the commentary team. Just get off the fucking camera. We want to see the fighters. We're not interested in you, right? I know that maybe the people are. That's up to them. This is my opinion. If the guy's fighting, I understand it. It's his fight. He can do what he wants. But when it's when it's someone else fighting, just fuck off. Go away. Don't want to see you. Going back to him on the commentary, it was just unbearable to listen to. It was a disgrace. It was a mockery for me. What are you doing having anyone just commentating on a world title fight? It was just, it's like, I question, does he actually know the sport? Because he says things, it's like he doesn't read the sport. He doesn't really understand it. Like he generally, I don't think he actually understands the sport. So I don't know why he was on the commentary. It was just a nonsense. They weren't picking up on anything. Not even Paul. It was the other 2 commentators weren't picking up on anything Liam Smith was doing. It was clear, right, that Vargas was gassing out after the 4th round. And if you do your research, which commentators should do, you will know Liam Smith puts the pressure on you. He smiles when he lets his hands go. He loves to fight, right? And the body shots from Liam Smith, he was slowing him down, breaking him down methodically, breaking him down. The commentators just didn't pick up on it. You just had that idiot Paul talking shite, and they just weren't commentating on what was in front of them. They didn't know anything about Smith. It was so poor. How can you have commentators? You're paying them money, and they can't do the research on the co-main event. This is an ex-world champion. Vargas was gone after the 4th round. You could see the body shots would take it was breaking him down. Never mentioned it once, these commentators, right? And you could see it wasn't long before he was going to get stopped. Then they didn't mention it, so it was just bizarre. I thought it was bad taste to have Paul on the commentary. Go and get some commentators because it's letting you down. DAZN's a great product, fantastic. Yes, it has problems with build up to fights. If you don't go on the app, you can get lost in translation. But they want it to be the Netflix of boxing, don't they? And unfortunately, how Netflix is ingrained in our consciousness, DAZN isn't there yet, but it will do. I think it will do eventually. But you do need to find smarter ways of getting the build up to the fans rather than having Eddie Hearn talking on everything and Jake Paul. There's got to be something smarter than that. You can't just rely on that. But the commentators, they need to sort out. You have a Mickey Mouse commentators. It's like they don't understand the sport. They just yap and talk shite, and they don't talk. They don't react to what's actually happening. So if a fighter gets hit with a left hook, they don't mention it. It's like they don't see it, and they just describe the fight really poorly. So you've got to sort your commentary team out because it's just ridiculous. It's tainting the product a little bit because it's not just that. It's every fight now with DAZN, and there's times where you've got to press mute. It's that bad. It's that bad, and I didn't want to press mute on this, and I didn't because I want to hear the atmosphere. But you've got to get your commentary team sorted out. Professional people in the fight game, not a fucking YouTuber. And I know. I think it was Jessica McCaskill, the other one, but the lead commentator was just horrendous. Got to sort it out. But it was a great event. Hats off to Eddie Hearn. Say what you want about him. I will call him out when he talks nonsense, but I also say he's the best promoter in the game. Hands down, best promoter in the game. Sensational night. Great fight. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Serrano won? Do you think Taylor won? Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know.